Welcome to an introduction to Universal Virtual Computer. After watching this video, you will understand what Universal Virtual Computer, or UVC, is, what the UVC-based preservation method is, and finally, how UVC can aid digital preservation. But first of all, what is digital preservation? Well, it's basically the safeguarding of digital objects and information for both present and for future use. This includes any kind of digital information, from text-based documents to images to sound clips. It is possible to preserve any and every kind of digital object. For example, if an organisation saved their business records to an individual computer, they might also have backup copies, such as on an external hard drive or on an internal shared network. This might just seem like common sense, but it helps to safeguard their information. However, they might go further with this and periodically run checks to see if files become corrupt, or if the format is no longer compatible with the software the business uses. This is an example of technological obsolescence, and combating this risk is another important part of digital preservation. Technological obsolescence affects all digital objects and materials as they are machine dependent. This means that when a certain hardware goes out of production, or a software is discontinued and no longer receives updates, we are left with incompatible and unreadable files, and that's why digital preservation is important. It can be carried out in numerous ways, and new methods are constantly being tested. UVC is just one of these methods, which we will now look at in closer detail. So what exactly is UVC? UVC was developed by Raymond Loewy circa 2001, whilst working on behalf of IBM. Its purpose is to reconstitute digital objects in their original forms and is designed specifically for archive use. It uses a combination of the two digital preservation strategies, emulation and migration. Emulation imitates hardware or software so that the digital object remains the same, and migration involves copying digital objects to different or more current technology. Some examples of migration are format, version, or software migration. It also forms the UVC-based preservation method. The method uses the combination of emulation and migration to reconstruct digital objects. This is done through a series of steps. First, the UVC program decodes file formats and creates element tags, which are specific pieces of information about the content of the data, and runs them on the UVC. Second, the element tags build the logical data view of the data, which is a bit like XML, the common markup language for metadata. Third, the UVC is fed the data through a format decoder. Through doing so, it retrieves a logical data schema, which describes the structure and meaning of the tags, and reconstructs the digital object for the viewer. This is now readable by the user. This method aids digital preservation in a number of ways. As it uses emulation and migration, it preserves the authenticity of the original digital object by imitating and reproducing it in its original form. This means that it doesn't alter the object, also protecting its integrity. This is important in making sure that the digital objects are still reliable. It's machine independent, which means that it will be valuable as a long-term method of digital preservation, as it could be used on different platforms in the future, and it's also available freely to the public. Naturally, there are a few disadvantages to using the UVC-based preservation method. As it's still being developed, it's hard to know exactly how well this method will work in the long term. As well as this, migration and emulation are not cheap methods of preservation, as they require a lot of upkeep. In particular migration, because it's possible that files will need to be remigrated in the future. However, it's unknown if these costs will have much of an impact on the UVC-based preservation method. So to recap, from watching this video today, you will have learned what Universal Virtual Computer is, the basics of the UVC-based preservation method, why the method will be useful in the future of digital preservation, a couple of disadvantages to using this method, which centre around the fact that it is still in development and that the costs of maintaining this method are unknown, and you'll have also learned a little bit about digital preservation and why this is important as well. Thanks for watching. Here are a few external sources if you would like to know more about Universal Virtual Computer, the UVC-based preservation method, and